Hi, I want to make a video on the dichotomy of existence, like in and out, I've thought about, things like sex this way. That's one of the first things that comes to mind is sex, in out. That's what you're doing. You're doing it out, and you're doing something, you're having a mutual interaction, having an effect, you're doing it to a sentient being, you're two consenting adults and interacting in that way, you're satisfying each other. Obviously, it's a simple interaction, but it means something. You can make it mean something. It's about the feeling more than what actually is going on, right? Like I've mentioned before. The feeling you're experiencing is obviously because you're avoiding a negative. You're, ooh, okay. And now you're right onto the same thing. So it really doesn't matter. It's gratifying what you're gratifying to avoid a negative, and that negative is the only thing that exists, and you're avoiding it to a certain extent. And you can only have so many orgasms and pleasurable experiences before that becomes a standard for which you find excitement. And in many ways, that can really affect your perception, I think. Obviously, I wouldn't know. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I would know that. So yes, like in out, you can think about it, means something. Really, in the end, it's how it affects you. Well, obviously, I mentioned how it affects you is to avoid a negative, and it creates a new standard for what you find to be gratifying. If it gets too high, it becomes a standard, sort of like, addiction. Any addiction, you have to require more and more and more to get the addiction. And if you have less, you have to do that to a certain extent of time, but you have to go to the pain of the time that it takes and the withdrawal or whatever it is to make that the higher standard now. But that's still a standard that you're creating, even though it's not high, you're creating a different standard, but the standard is not necessarily as satisfying as if you went over here again. You get some momentary satisfaction, but to go back to there, you made a mistake to get the momentary great satisfaction of going this high. But, living down here, it's about minimizing that separation. If you have to go all the way down here to get back to, making that satisfying in the middle. Just to get that momentary satisfaction all the way at the top. And just to get back down to the middle, you have to go through all the deprivation. It's not really worth it. So back to the analogy about sex. Sex is pretty much, yes, in out, and out. It doesn't matter how it affects you. It's the quality of the experience as opposed to what's actually going on. The amount of times you go in and out, the action, and the action is qualitative. The number doesn't mean anything, really. Okay, yes, it lasts longer. It has more of an interaction, or even eating. You're sticking something in your mouth and it's coming out. You can really just boil life down to a dichotomy of, or juxtaposition of left, right, up, down, north, south, east, west, northeast, southwest, northwest, south, northeast, southwest. It really boils down to these simple interactions. First, last, between. There's these extremes. Obviously, it becomes in shades of gray. But generally speaking, you're either on the making better side or making worse side, and that's really where the dichotomy exists. You're either making things better, or you're making things worse, or you're making things, making things better, making things worse. You're first, last, in, out, right, left, left, right. It's really that's how life is existing. It's existing on a left or right to first to last in and out basis. It's not existing any other way. Obviously, you could say shades of gray, yes. How much it's making things worse or better, yes. You can say obviously there's shades of gray, or what's causing this or that, but really you're either making things better or worse, regardless of the qualitative interaction of something happening and you doing this and that. It's really comes down to black and white. It really exists on a black and white level, regardless of how you want to qualitatively put it or quantitatively put it. It exists on a qualitative level. So yes, it's existing a certain way for a certain reason. So yes, that's interesting, I suppose. Yum, sigh, sigh. So yes, life really, when you boil it down to the very simple mechanics of existence, yes, in, out. It means something more. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The in, out, or the in, out, your ass, of, say, gratifying your, you're just going in, really. The reciprocation, the equal and opposite reaction kind of thing. How life works on that level can be simplified when you're looking at the mechanics. but it means something more, avoiding a negative. And that's part of the mechanics of reality. So in reality, you're really just avoiding a negative. Doing the same redundant process of the dichotomy of in out, of just doing the same process over and over again, because it requires the in out. Obviously, you're doing it over and over, and it's redundant because you're doing the same process over and over again. Gratify the same pleasures over and over again. But it can mean more, but it only means more when you put the different qualitative experience of it having an effect on your psychology and your sentient well-being and sentient value that you have. And that's the only way it means more, is because the value that's coming out of you based on that interaction. It doesn't mean more any other way. There's no magic or nothing else in the interaction. It's just, ooh, I feel good because of it, therefore it means more than the sum of its parts. It means more than the sum of its parts because I feel good because of this, the end. It means more. But it really means more to avoid, ooh, a negative that you're experiencing in reaction to the positive experience that you're getting out of an experience. Kind of annoying, right? So you're walking from here to there, forward to back. You're walking here, yeah, but you're going from this angle now, so it's still forward to back. You took a turn, obviously that's, you can be more precise. You're going straight, you're going left, you're going right. You're going forward, but then if you're going left, the right becomes where you turn becomes a straight line, adjacent, parallel. It's the straight line you're creating. Essentially, it's very linear. Obviously, can you reduce a circle down to just a very perfect circle? Not really. It's because it's just a bunch of, it's like a 1,000-sided shape creating something. When you really get down to the nitty-gritty of the situation and description. Yes, life reacts on this basis of redundancy, doing the same thing over and over again to gratify our frivolous pleasures, to do the pleasure over again based on our projection of value that we place those things on, just to do it over and over again for no good reason. We can make it feel good, yeah, ooh, it feels good, but it's still just the same old redundant process. Ooh, okay. Ooh, and out, oh yeah. Like eating, so gratifying. Yeah, it means something, yes, and now it meant something, like I've mentioned before. Okay, yes, so what? So what? You can say so what. You can say so what anyway, right? You can say so what in the opposite way. So what? Yeah, it's simple, but I like it. Well, yeah, you like it. I'm not saying you can't like it. I'm not saying you can't like it, idiot. I'm just saying that I'm just describing the process and what's exactly going on outside of your perspective. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm just saying it's a redundant process, and when it comes down to the logic of describing a situation and how it's actually working, you cannot deny the facts of reality. Not only can you deny it, you can't describe it or describe it any other way. You can, but it's not going to change reality in the way you describe it. It's not going to do anything to change it except the fact that you said something, and that's it. It doesn't do anything for the better. Your change doesn't automatically will it to be. It just is what it is. Obviously, that wouldn't work because there'd just be too many different wills interacting. Therefore, it wouldn't exist because it can't exist because it's a contrivance like time travel. We can't think or perceive outside of the boundaries of existence. We can only perceive inside the boundaries of existence. And I guess this is another thing I want to go over real quick. When I mentioned perceived as well, you can only perceive, like you can consider time travel. That doesn't exist, but you can perceive it because it's built upon a bunch of contradictions. And that's where many of these new and interesting ideas, at least as fiction, can come out of, is you just build a bunch of contradictions, a bunch of contrivances, one on the other, a bunch of paradoxes and conundrums, and yet you apply it to a situation regardless of these paradoxes or conundrums that you experience. It requires a contrivance and a contradiction. We can know where that comes from. But you can't perceive outside of the reality. You can't perceive something that doesn't exist. You can't perceive a color that doesn't exist because it doesn't exist on the color spectrum. It doesn't exist to begin with because it's inside the realm of reality. You can't perceive a color beyond black, or you can't perceive a color beyond white on the left and black on the right, or black on the left and white on the right. You can't perceive anything brighter than white, and you can't perceive anything darker than black. You can't perceive anything. Pure black, blindness, or pure white staring at, I don't know, in heaven's eye. Heaven's Gate's eye. No, white. Then pure white. You can't do anything beyond that. You can have different shades, but you can't perceive anything beyond the realm of existence. It has to be within reality. You can't perceive a 12th dimension or whatever. You can have it as a vague idea or concept, but it doesn't exist. You can just vaguely describe it. You can actually prove it to be. Other than it's a description coming out of your mouth, doing nothing, vibrating silly little notions for a mutual understanding to get a point across. That's all we're doing. It doesn't mean anything more or less. the same idea anyway. So, yes. I mean, that's really it. I mean, life is kind of bland and not interesting anyway. So, yes. The dichotomy of existence. Our life exists on this level, and you can be more, okay, you're going southeast now. It's just built on a line. It's built on a linear line, and that's really how reality works in and of itself. It exists based on a linear line, not based on cause and effect, because all these things are moving linearly in their interaction. They're bouncing around in chaos, but they're moving around based on a linear deterministic mechanism. Not only that, but the things in reality, they all make sense. It's like, well, why can't reality exist this way? Why isn't it existing this way? Because why are things different? Why are things working this way in reality? Why did I exist? Why are things perceived this way? Because those are the way things are reality, and reality creates the logical consistency that you can create, regardless of any internal logic you have. It works within the reality and confines of existence, regardless of how you perceive or think about things. It's going on those lines, regardless of where the lines are going, because the lines are going based inside the bubble in the game linearly in whatever direction they're going. It doesn't matter what they're going or what they're doing. So that's all I need to say. So until next time, thank you.